Flick to link, a link to flick.
The School of Architecture that I studied at some 30 years ago happened to be across the street from the wonderful art gallery designed by the great architect Louis Kahn. I loved that building and I used to visit it quite often. And one day I saw the security guard run his hand across the concrete wall. And it was the way he did it, the expression on his face. Something touched me. I could see that the security guard was moved by the building and that architecture has that capacity to move you. I could see it and I remember thinking, wow, how does architecture do that? At school, I was learning to design, but here was a reaction of the heart. And it touched me to the core. You know, you aspire for beauty, for sensuousness, for atmosphere, the emotional response. That's the realm of the ineffable and the immeasurable. And that's what you live for, a chance to try. So in 2003, there was an open call for designs for the Baha'i Temple for South America. This was the first temple in all of South America. It's a continental temple, a hugely important milestone for the Baha'i community because this would be the last of the continental temples and would open the door for national and local temples to be built around the world. And the brief was deceptively simple and unique in the annals of religion. A circular room, 9 sides, 9 entrances, 9 paths, allowing you to come to the temple from all directions. 9 symbolizing completeness, perfection, no pulpit, no sermons, as there are no clergy in the Baha'i faith. And in a world which is putting up walls, the design needed to express in form the very opposite. It had to be open, welcoming to people of all faiths, walks of life, backgrounds, or no faith at all. A new form of sacred space with no pattern or models to draw from. It was like designing one of the first churches for Christianity or one of the first mosques for Islam. So we live in a secular world. How do you design sacred space today? And how do you even define what's sacred today? I stumbled across this beautiful quote from the Baha'i writings, and it speaks to prayer. It says that if you reach out in prayer, and if your prayer is answered, which is already very interesting, that the pillars of your heart will become a shrine. And I love this idea of the inner and the outer. Like when you see someone and you say, that person's radiant. And I was thinking, my gosh, how could we make something architectural out of that? Where you create a building and it becomes alive with light. Like alabaster, if you kiss it with light, it becomes alive. And I drew this sketch, something with 2 layers, translucent, with structure in between, capturing light. Maybe a pure form, a single form of emanation that you could imagine would be all dome. And everything we kept making was looking too much like an egg. A blob. So you search. You all know this, crazy search, letting the process take you, and you live for the surprises. And I remember quite by accident, saw this little video of a plant moving in light, and it made me think of movement, reach, this idea that the temple could have reached, like this reach for the divine.
Flick to link, a link to flick.
Also, that movement within a circle.
My photo taste is the Pinterest, because they are the best stuff.
This is a podcast from bbclearningenglish.com. For more information, visit our website. Frankenstein, Episode 8. Scientist Victor Frankenstein is accused of murder.
Hello. I'm scientist Victor Frankenstein, here in the Arctic, trying to find a monster I've created. I've been having all this trouble with one monster, and to think that I was about to create another one. The creature threatened me and my family if I didn't make it a bride. Well, it said it felt lonely. There I was, on a Scottish island, far away, working on it. Mixing chemicals, sewing flesh and bone together. Then I thought it was madness, and destroyed it. But the monster saw me doing it through a window. It was angry. Yes, very angry.
How could you break your promise? You have just destroyed my only hope of happiness. Do you think you'll get married and live happily with a wife while I am all alone and sad?
Go to hell, you horrible creature.
I'll have my revenge. I'll be with you on your wedding night.
The threat kept ringing in my ears. Was he going to kill me? Elizabeth would be very upset. A dead husband on her wedding night. These thoughts were going round and round in my head when I collected the body parts of what would be the creature's bride and put them in a basket. I dragged the heavy basket to my boat and I left the island. I threw the basket into the sea. All of a sudden, I felt better. I thought I had done the right thing. And I found myself thinking of my bright future with Elizabeth, my love, and my father, and my good friend Henry. He must be having fun at this very moment, I thought. I really wanted to join him. But the strong winds took me to a small village on the Irish coast, and something strange happened.
What a crowd. Come on. Come on, let me through. Go home, aren't you fishermen? Go fishing. Let the police do their duty.
What's going on?
You come with me, sir. You have to explain what happened to the man whose body we found.
A body? Whose body?
A body was found on the beach. The man had been killed. A fisherman says he saw a boat with a single man in it at a short distance from the beach. That boat looked like yours. We'll take you to see the body, sir.
And so they did. Who lost their life? It was Henry. My best friend was killed. I was very upset, and I can't remember much of what happened next. I'm told I had to be carried out of the morgue. I had a fever and started saying that I was the murderer of William, Justine, and Henry. I was arrested. When they found a letter from home in my pocket, they got in touch with my father in Geneva. He came to help me until I was allowed to go back home.
Well, Mr. Alphonse Frankenstein, an important piece of information was brought to me. Your son was at the Orkney Islands at the hour the body of Mr. Henry Clerval was found. Another fisherman saw him there. Take good care of this young man. He's been saying he has murdered someone called William and Justine.
He's sick. Well, we'll go back to Geneva, where Elizabeth, his bride, is waiting for him. He'll get better.
My father was very happy, but I was not. Henry was certainly killed by the monster, and who knew where this nightmare would end? Sometimes I thought I should tell my father about the creature, but he might think I was mad. Who'd believe a creature can be brought back from the dead? Would you? Nobody knew my life was under threat. The creature could be watching me. I'll tell you about my arrival to Geneva and my meeting with Elizabeth next time. Would we really get married? Or would the monster kill again? I was afraid. Very afraid.
This is a podcast from bbclearningenglish.com. For more information,
From BBC Learning English. Hello and welcome to News Review, the programme where we show you how to use the language from the latest news stories in your everyday English. Hi, I'm Neil. Joining me today is Dan.
Hello.
What is our story?
Our story is about gender stereotypes and diversity.
Gender stereotypes and diversity. Let's find out more from this BBC Radio 4 bulletin.
A software engineer working for Google, who criticised the company's diversity policy in an internal memo, says he's been sacked for perpetuating gender stereotypes. James Damore had claimed there were biological causes for men and women having different preferences and abilities, which might explain the lack of women in leadership and technical roles. Google has said it won't discuss individual cases.
So, basically, an engineer working for Google has sent an internal email saying that the reason that men and women are good at different jobs is because of biological differences. This means, according to him, that gender equality policies don't work. However, he has been strongly criticised for this, and he may have lost his job.
Okay, well, you have been looking around the news websites of the world and finding out how this story is being talked about. You've picked out 3 expressions we need to know.
Certainly have. We have slams, contentious, and hits a nerve.
Okay, let's start with that first one then, your first headline.
So the first headline comes from usnews.com and says, Google CEO slams memo on gender as employee reportedly fired.
So, slams, meaning criticises strongly. Dan, as ever, I'm a bit confused here. Because I thought that a slam was something like this.
Well, you're not wrong, Neil. To slam something is to hit with force. That's the physical meaning. And when you criticize somebody, it's a bit like attacking them or hitting them with a physical force. So the metaphorical meaning of slam is to criticize somebody.
Yeah. Now, this is an example of a word that is used in newspapers websites, the media.
Exactly.
But we would never use in a conversation. It would just sound really weird.
No, it's a word that the newspapers like. It's short, it's punchy, and it's very dramatic. But yeah, we wouldn't do that.
So, for example, if I was describing that situation the other day when you once again stole my coffee, I wouldn't say, I really slammed Dan for stealing my coffee, would I? What would I say?
No, you would use a colloquialism. You might say, have a go. So, for example, Neil had a go at me for stealing his coffee.
Yeah. Can you stop doing that, please?
I'm sorry. What I quite liked is the way you used the opposite word afterwards. You complimented me for stealing your coffee, or you flattered me for stealing your coffee because I did it so stealthily.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to our next headlines?
So our next headline comes from the nydailynews.com and says, Google fires engineer behind contentious diversity manifesto, slamming women in tech.
Okay, we got that word slamming in there again, but the one we're looking at this time is contentious, meaning causing argument or disagreement.
Yes, now this is a Latin-based word and it originally meant obstinate or argumentative. Contentious is an adjective, but we also have a verb, to contend, and we have a noun, contention, and you often see it in a collocation, a point of contention. For example, it is a point of contention between Neil and I who gets to sit in the news review captain's chair.
It is.
You usually win.
I got it today. No contention today.
No.
Right. This is neither a formal nor informal word.
No, it's a neutral word. And interestingly, it can be used as a personal adjective as well. So you can say that someone is contentious generally, i.e. that they like arguing, they're argumentative, or they're quarrelsome.
Yeah. We can also say a contentious issue.
Yes, we can.
Or a point of contention.
Absolutely. So contentious issues these days might be things like abortion, same-sex marriage, and climate change. All contentious issues. Both sides of the argument feel very strongly about their side.
And a point of contention, that's slightly different, isn't it?
A point of contention means that something is up for debate, hasn't been decided yet.
Yeah, it's still got that sense of debate and argument. Let's move on to the next and final headline.
All right, our final headline comes from NBCnews.com and says, Google manifesto hits a nerve in Silicon Valley.
Hits a nerve, upsets someone.
Yes, now have you ever had a toothache? Have you ever had a raw nerve or an exposed nerve? Toothache.
So the bit between the gum and the tooth.
Exactly. Have you ever accidentally touched that? Yes. So that very strong, painful, and immediate reaction is the physical meaning of touching a nerve. Now, the metaphorical meaning is directly related to this. So when you say something that upsets somebody, often something that they might be quite sensitive about, and I've got a story about this, personal anecdote. I have a friend who came back from a Spanish holiday and enjoyed lots of excellent Spanish food, and she put on a little bit of weight. And when I saw her, I was so happy to see her. I did the hug and lift thing, you wrap your arms and you try and pick them up like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't lift her, and I made this sort of oof noise, and she got very sensitive about it because she knew that she had put on weight.
So it hit a raw nerve.
It hit a raw nerve with her. Now the addition of raw here, not like raw food, but raw meaning exposed or unprotected. So it makes the expression even stronger if you hit a raw nerve.
It's time now to look at our Facebook challenge, of course. We set this question. A Google software engineer has sent an internal memo which criticises the company's policy on employing a wide range of people. What is this policy officially called? The options were A, a stereotype policy, B, a gender equality policy, and C, diversity policy. What's the right answer? What did we get?
The correct answer is C, diversity policy, and I'm pleased to see that there were many people who got it right. We also have a few people who got it wrong and said B. But Hirokazu Kondo mentions diversity contains gender equality, so well done, Hirokazu.
Okay, so if you could just give us a recap of today's vocabulary, Dan.
Certainly can. First we had slams, meaning criticises it strongly. Then we had contentious, causing argument or disagreement. And finally, hits a nerve, upsets someone.
Okay, well, we don't want to upset anyone, do we?
Certainly not.
If you'd like to test yourself on today's vocabulary, there's a quiz you can take on our website, bbclearningenglish.com, with videos and all sorts of other things to help you improve your English. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
News review from BBC Learning English.
Flick to link, a link to flick.